talking, and I'm conscious it's a Friday afternoon, and you probably all want to get a pub, so I've got some notes with us anyway. So I'm Alison Thompson, I'm from Syntons, and I'm head of the Debt Recovery Department. For anyone who doesn't know about Syntons, we have been around since 1896. We're very, so we've been in town for a long time. We've been described as a stalwart player in Newcastle in the north, and I think that demonstrates exactly who we are. That said, our client base isn't restricted to the northeast. We have an office in New York, and we cover nationally, so we have a big client base across the country. We have an exceptional CSR program, which all the staff gets involved with. And last year we raised over 24k for our nominated charity, which is phenomenal. I hope you agree. We're very proud of our history, and our continued success. But I think personally that's because of the people in our firm. Because to be honest, your business is only about who you employ, who you are, and how you project yourself. So I think that's what makes us successful. We're a full service firm, so whatever area of law you need or you want advice on, we can provide that, which is another reason I think what makes us successful, because we can look after someone all the way down the line. My team, that's us. Helen, who sat at the back. Helen's been with us she's been with the firm about 3-4 years, and been in my department debt for about a year. She's really nice and smiley and looks really mild-mannered, which is a real rottweiler when it comes to getting debts paid. I wouldn't want to load money to Caitlin. And then we've got Jill. Jill has been with the firm around 8 to 10 years, but she's got over 20 years experience in dispute resolution and debt. Me, I've been around since the 80s, and not always in debt, but I started out in PI, and then went across into debt and started my own business. So I know exactly where you guys are coming from and how difficult it is when you're starting out. I then went off and did some politics, and then retired from politics last year and came back into law. So it's a bit of a snake sort of career path, but I think it all adds to that experience really. We're a small small team in the firm, but I think again that adds to our expertise, because really in debt recovery you shouldn't need a big team, because it's all about the processes and how quick you work and how fast you can get into those the debtors. And by keeping that process neat and streamlined, we can do that, but we can also keep the cost down for our clients. So that, for me, it's really important to have a small team. So I'm conscious again about time and everything. So it is a very brief overview, I guess, of everything that we need to do. But what I'm going to try and do is give you some tips on knowing your customer, who you're doing business with, your terms and conditions, and I hope you'll see how that links into your credit control and getting paid. Your cash flow, profitability, it's essential part of your business. And whether or not you're a micro business, as you say, or whether you're multi-million pound turnover, getting paid is still essential. Your cash flow is massively the important part of it. You need it for your growth and all of that. So without it, you really you may as well give up. I think in an ideal world, yes, your customer you'll give them an invoice, your customers will pay you on time, and you will never need Caitlin or I. And I hope that goes across this whole room, but unfortunately that's not always the case. So, knowing your customer, whether you're business to customer, business to a sole person, or a business to business debt, we deal with them both. So how do you get to know your customer? Do your background checks. It's essential to do those. Do credit checks if you can. I appreciate that costs money, because there's a lot of companies out there who will offer you that service, but it will cost you. But it is, it gives you an idea of, whether or not you should continue to do business with people. But you don't have to always spend money to learn about your customer or who you're doing business with. You can speak to other people within your sector, because they may well have done business with those people. They'll know whether or not they're good peers. Speak to people here, because it's worth asking, have you had someone ring you up and ask you to do such and such, but they don't want to pay us for 2 months. Those strange requests, which you'll be surprised people do get. So evaluate that, look at the whole picture. It's really, really hard when you're starting up, because let's be honest, you need that income, so it's really hard to pick and choose. But it's essential that you do try. So should you refuse someone outright? Well, no, I'm not saying you should, but how do you protect yourself from getting caught at the end? Terms and conditions is essential. So why bother? Well, why wouldn't you? Because if you want to protect the profitability of your business, why wouldn't you want to get paid on time? So the average payment terms set is 30 days. So even if you have nothing in your terms and conditions about when you want to be paid or by your customer, the average is 30 days. So that's a given. But you can decide your payment terms as long as it's in your terms and conditions, as long as it's on the back of your invoice. You can decide whether or not your customer pays you within 7 days, 14 days, 60 days, payment on delivery. I mean, we've all had situations, I heard of situations where you've ordered something and they'll pay you, it's cash on delivery. You can have that. There's nothing to prevent you. It's not dictated by the type or sector of your business. The only thing I'd say is if it is payment on delivery, if you do go down that road, then stick to it. You turn up with the goods. Don't leave them. Do not leave them until that person pays you. And if you suspect someone's going to be a bad payer, then again, don't necessarily write it off and say no, I'm not working for them. Get cash up front. So if you pay us up, on demand, and then I'll deliver the goods, whatever, I'll do the job for you. Then there's nothing to stop you from doing that. Be clear, be precise, and don't divert from them. If you set a payment term, then stick to it. Credit control. Oh, sorry, I was going to mention implied terms. That works really well for things like, as I said, there's satisfactory, quality, fit for purpose. There's an implied terms in terms and conditions where you can say, well, it was fit for purpose, it was, and all of that, but it doesn't work when getting paid. You've got to be precise. There's no implied terms when you talk about invoice. So credit control. The practice of making sure your customers pay you on time. Well, wouldn't we all like that? And yeah, it's a really, who takes the time once a month to look through their invoices and tick off whether or not you've had that. It's really essential. Put that time just set to one side, whether it's an hour, half an hour, over coffee. Just go through your books and check that everyone's paid you by that stage. And if they haven't, if your terms are 30 days, day 31, be on it, be jumping on it, because by day 31, you've already lost that 1 day, extra day of payment. So, but good credit control is much more than making sure your customers pay on time. It's checking that you're invoicing to the right person, stating your terms clearly on your invoices, ask for the advance payments, as I said, chasing your payments all of the time, and meeting your customers wherever you can. And I know, I appreciate sometimes, in your online businesses, that's really, really hard. You're dealing with someone over an email or on the phone, it's really difficult. And be proactive. Think before you're extending credit. If someone rings you and says, oh, can I just have another 7 days? Why? Or why are they going to ask you for 7 days? Because in another 7 days, they're going to ask you for another 7 and another 7 and another 7. So, whilst I appreciate it's difficult because you don't want to be losing customers and you have to maintain a relationship there, just be careful about who you're extending your credit to. So it's a common sense approach, and you can see how it links in to knowing your customer and the terms and conditions. It's all part of this one big circle. So, is it rocket science? No, it's not, but it's finding the time to do it, and I appreciate that. Sometimes difficult. So, a nice little quote: "We must gain control of your money, or the lack of it will forever control you," and that is so true. So I always like to bring that one up. So, as I say, in the ideal world, you've done the job for someone, you've been paid on time, and everyone's happy. But what happens when that doesn't happen? The legal route, that's when Kate and I come into it. There are two types of debtors. There's the can't pay and the won't pay. Kate and I get really sick of seeing this little ditty, but that is the fact of life, because and what frustrates us most are the won't payers, because the can't pays, they actually really want to get into a payment arrangement with you, and they want to avoid the legal route at all costs. So from our point of view, the can't payers, they're easy to get your payment from, because it's about getting in a dialogue with them. But the won't pays, they're far more difficult, and they'll try anything to avoid paying it. So what we do is we profile the debtor first. So we'll look at whether or not they're a homeowner, they've got equity in that property, or they've got some other sort of assets, and we'll look at whether or not we can recover your invoice in that way. I'll put a little quote here actually. There's never been a time of more personal debt in the UK, and that's the statistics of personal debt is through the roof these days, and that's not going to change anytime soon, because the economic climate is such that everybody's struggling. So your debtor is struggling, but it's my job and Caitlin's job to put you at the front of the queue. So unfortunately for us, although we've got a lot of discretion around payment terms, credit control, and the knowing your customer, for us, when it comes to the legal route, we're dictated to by certain protocols. Those protocols are in place, and we have to follow a certain path, even from the start. Sending a letter before action, the LBA to your debtor, we have to follow a certain protocol, because if we haven't done it then, it won't work at the end. You won't get your money back. I'll go back. So that the letter before action, we send that out. We must include the basis of how that debt accrued. So whether it's an invoice, whether it's some piece of work, whether it's a retention element, whatever that might be. So we include that. We have to include a synopsis. We have to include a summary of the facts, how that accrued, and an explanation as to how much is owed. We must also provide information where the debtor can obtain debt support. That's a new step which came into force in legislation about 2017, where the courts were very conscious of individuals becoming financially distressed and mental health issues, and all of that goes with the financial situation for people, and that's quite right. But so we if it's an individual, or even if it's a company, we'll provide all of the information where they can provide help and support if they're in financial distress. At the same time as we send the LBA, we'll include an element of interest and compensation. This usually surprises people. It's really surprising how many people don't realise they can add money to their debt that's owed that invoice. And this is it. The Late Payment of Commercial Debts Interest Act. That what the law says that you can claim 8% on a late payment. But in 1998, this little baby came into play, and this gives you a little bit more. You can actually claim 8.75 currently, because it's 8% above the base rate. So, and what you can do is you actually claim that from the date the payment fell due. And if you've got 4 invoices, it's claimed on each individual invoice. So that can add up to quite a bit of money. There's also the Late Payment of Commercial Debts Regulations, which was updated in 2013, which gives you an element of compensation. So each individual invoice you can claim an amount of compensation on. That ranges depending on the amount of what's owed to you, whether it's £40, £70, £100. So we also include that. It's really important because you don't want to be out of pocket for claiming your what's rightfully owed to you. So it's really important that you think about adding those amounts to your invoices. So that, and I put there, you can, as long as you supply goods and or services, and the buyer bought for business purposes. Your business-to-business debt, you have to think about claiming this interest and compensation element. It's really important. Right. So, if we, I think this might have gone round the wrong way. Or have we got one missing? Yeah, I think we have. Apologies. I'll go back. So yeah, if we get no response to our LBA, we then have to issue through the court proceedings. It's very straightforward, and it's the simplest part of the process for us. It's a straightforward court form. Bang it into the court. We draft our particulars of claim, which if it's straightforward, if it's a straightforward invoice recovery, it can be quite simple to do. Debtor has 14 days in which to respond to that or file a defence. It's different where there's a different criteria between an individual, a sole trader, and a company, and if it depends on which of them has a length of time to respond. If it's a sole trader and an individual, get me tongue tied, they get a little bit longer to respond, but we would guide you through that. And if they haven't filed a defence, we then go straight forward to our judgment. I'm sure we've all in the room heard of CCGs, old-fashioned CCGs. They are registered against that person or that company, and then we would have to enforce that. A CCG years and years ago was a really scary thing. I don't know if anybody in the room is old enough to. I remember years ago when I was first started out, and someone would get a CCG, and I'm absolutely terrified about a CCG. I did everything they could to pay and get away from having a CCG against them. That's not the case now, because and the reason for that is there are a lot of lenders out there still willing to lend or give credit to people with CCGs, and that's why we've become into this scenario of where a CCG doesn't matter anymore. So we would, and it's a very straightforward process for us to do. We just bang the request into the court and say, can we have a judgment? And as long as the debtor hasn't responded in any way, it's given. It's registered centrally. It's for public record. So yeah, anybody can go on and have a look. If again, it's part of knowing your customer. Have a look on there and see if you can have if who you're going to be doing business with already has CCGs. So you can access that information. So then it comes to enforcing that CCG, and that's the most difficult part for us. But if we've done our job right at the beginning and profiled your debtor, it actually makes it easier at the end for us, because we know what assets they've got, we know whether they've got own any property, we know what we can go for. So if we've done all of that, we'll know where best to advise you to go to get your money back. It's a long-winded process, I suppose, but it's there's lots of options there when it comes to enforcement. We've got the old-fashioned court bailiff, who we never very use because they're not very good, if I'm going to be honest. We only use them. There's a process where if you've got a debt under £600, generally they have to go to the old-fashioned court bailiffs. But we rarely get debts of that amount anyway. But we don't like to use them because they're not very good yet. I don't know how to politely say they're not very good. Alternative to them is the High Court bailiffs, High Court enforcement officers, I should say. You would have all seen the can't pay, won't pay, take it away, whatever those programs are. It's really not like that. No longer can a bailiff come and knock on your door, force entry, and take everything you own. That's not what they do really. They can enter your premises once you've invited them in for the first time, and what they're trying to do now is they're trying to get people into repayment programs if they've got, you know, if your debtor hasn't got a car that they own outright and it's worth 50 grand, then they're going to try whatever means they can to then recover it another way. Things like taking people's tellies, taking people's PCs, whatever it might be, they don't really do that anymore because of, you know, the world being as it is, that you're not going to get much money for that in a sale. So unless it's something brand spanking new, which I have sent sheriffs into homes to recover goods on a Christmas Eve because everything's wrapped up and it's brand spanking new, and I'll get a bit more money for that for my client. Things like that. If you're cute about it, you can get things like that done. It's very tiny and all the things like that. We do third-party debt orders. So what I can do is I can freeze someone's bank account. I can freeze your debtor's bank account until I get the money off that. Put charging orders on property, things like that. So that's really, you know, the first part of the process is really straightforward and really simple. It's then the skill is in enforcement. Someone once said that a lawyer should be able to progress a debt recovery claim very simply, but that the real skill is in enforcement, and it's absolutely true. It's learning enough about someone. I haven't put on a slide. Limitation, if you've got 6 years from the date that your debt fell due to recover, to get to this point, the court proceedings, 6 years to recover that. Once we get judgment, you've then, you know, there's this old-fashioned idea that judgments expire within 6 years, the same as a normal limitation. That's not true. If you've got a judgment that's 10 years old, I can try and recover that for you. So judgments never really die. They drop off the register, they drop off the public register after 6 years, but judgments don't die anymore. So in certain circumstances, depending on what sort of enforcement I was going to pursue, I might need leave of the court or the court's permission to do that. But that's quite rare because so far case law hasn't been good in that area, because people who have tried to do that have been for small amounts or want to use like the court bailiffs and things, and you've got to show really, really good reasons why you want to pursue it for a small amount. Maybe your debtor's won the lottery or something, or come into money somehow. That may be considered a really good reason, but so far the law around the case law around it hasn't been good. So it's probably something that I certainly wouldn't be advising my clients if I had a couple of £100 outstanding. I wouldn't be saying pay X amount of pounds to have leave of the court. There's also insolvency, and I thought I had a slide on it, but I don't know where it's gone. Never mind. I'm not going to say much about insolvency anyway, because I could do a whole session on insolvency. It's a very niche area, it's complex. The proceedings are pursued under very specific insolvency law, rather than the court procedures, the county court procedures that we've got with this. You can pursue winding up proceedings on insolvency to an individual, to a company, to a partnership. It's not considered a good route for debt recovery, which is why I don't really cover it in these sessions, because what happens when you go down the insolvency route, an official receiver or an insolvency practitioner is appointed, and they will break up the assets of that company or that person's assets and sell them off and recover all the money and then break it up. So basically they're just breaking up the person's assets in that way. And then you'll get dividends. You might be one of 20, 30 creditors, so you're not necessarily going to get a lot of money. Statistics show something like 7 pence in the pound current dividends if I wind a company up. So it's not something we do easily or lightly, because it can have a negative effect. That said, if you are doing business with a company and you believe their director has behaved incorrectly, that's a different matter. If you think that they behave badly and they're not running their company correctly and they should be wound up, and on the back of that you'll get your money back, then that's a different matter altogether. Of course, there is the attitude that, you know, once you've wound the company up, then those directors can never be directors again, ever. So it depends, I suppose, on your attitude, you know, whether or not you just want your money back, or whether or not you want, you know, they've caused you misery and you're gonna go at them, which we do get that sometimes. Defended claims, again, I'm not going to say a great deal about it, because history shows that, well, a debt's usually disputed where they're not happy about the service they've provided, or they're not happy in some way about the invoice. That's the crux of the disputed defended claims that we get. The debt recovery will be ineffective on a disputed or defended claim until we've resolved that query. So it's again about getting that dialogue with them, because we can only resolve those queries when we've had that conversation with them and found exactly what their problems are, their issues are, and then we can get round to getting the invoice paid. So we still have that dialogue. So that's it. Quality of goods or services, that's an issue of fact, and they're sometimes complex, but majority of claims are not defended. You get very few of them, if I'm honest. And that again is down to having good terms and conditions at the start. So why lawyers? Reputation. You've got a client, you're in a small sector, people tend to know each other, and if you get a reputation for being a little bit liquid on your recoveries, then people find out. But if you jump on day 31 and that gets around, pay them because they don't let you get away with it, then that helps your reputation. If that doesn't work, obviously by employing us to do it for you, that enhances your reputation as well, because again, your customers will realise that, well, if you don't pay, then the lawyers step in, and it really, a debtor getting a letter off us, it has the impact that you want. We take out the frustration away from it. You will get frustrated with your debtors, all of the cash flow issues that it creates. It's time saving for you as well, because it is time consuming dealing with debtors. For us, it's a very simple process because we do it day in, day out. But for you, it's a really lengthy process. It's economical as well, because we offset our costs by claiming your interest and compensation. At every step of the process through the litigation route, you can recover from your debtor. So their debt's increasing, but you're going to get that money back. So it's economical. And again, if you've got disputed claims, it's better we deal with that, because we can get into that dialogue and we can deal with the facts going back and forward. And one thing I haven't put on there, it's about maintaining your client connections as well, your customer connections. We take a great deal of pride in how we deal with debtors and how professional we remain. For you can say to a customer, they are an extension of our credit control, that's it. But we have to understand from you whether or not you want to continue to work with that customer, and if you do, we have to consider that. So we'll do all of that. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Saw that out.
So it's about maintaining all of that contact and everything. But we understand that you might want to continue to do business with that person. You just need that invoice paid. So we'll have that conversation, and it's easier for us to have it than you, because you're in a situation where they will say, well, just give us an extra couple of days and We don't allow any of that. So there's your thought for the day. Rule number one, never lose money, and rule number number 2, never forget rule number 1. How easy is that? If it was all so easy.
Richest man in the world, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So, any questions?
How long should you wait, or how much debt should you wait for until you get you guys involved?
A zero amount, debt-wise, a zero limit. I wouldn't, and also like the day after it's due. So as I said before, if your terms are 30 days, day 31, if you can have 2 ways. You can either contact us immediately. If you feel that you want to keep that conversation going with the customer, then pick up the phone, email, send them, but if you're not getting that response, you'll know. Everybody gets to know their customers, and you'll get that gut feeling whether or not you think they're like swinging the lead or whatever that phrase is. And if you're thinking doesn't sound right, this is too good to be true, it probably is. It's that old adage, isn't it? So yeah, if you're not comfortable with it, just pick up the phone to them and we can sort it. All we need to get on with it is the invoice, and then we email shoot an LB off. So it's nothing for us to do. But it's really imperative. I think because I've been in this situation where when I was starting out, and that cash flow is so important. And you get someone who's like a late payer, and it can absolutely skew your whole business. It just takes one person or one invoice, and you can't then pay the guy who you've hired the photocopier from, or whatever it might be. And then it has that knock-on effect. And if you've got no light at the tunnel when you're going to get paid, what does that do to your business? So it's really, there's no clear answer to it. Use your gut instinct, have clear terms, be precise. But if you feel it's someone that you can get into that dialogue with, then get in touch with the lawyers, and just let them get on with it.
It's sort of like a double-pronged question. The first part is how much, does it vary in how much it would cost to look for somebody to help you recover debts, like, for example, from you guys? And the second part is if the debt you're trying to recover happens to fall below how much it would cost you to actually recover it, are there things that you can do to try and, apart from the normal stuff, is there something in particular you can do by yourself to try and sort that out more easily than just calling and emailing and trying to get hold of them?
Yeah, if it's uneconomical to get us involved?
Yeah, precisely.
Well, that's what I was saying before about charging the interest and compensation. For us to send a letter for you, so say you had one invoice owed, and for us to send a letter, we charge you 45 quid.
Okay.
You're getting 40 quid back on your compensation, at least. That's the minimum you're getting back, and plus your interest on top of that. So actually, it's not costing you anything.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was quite so affordable to send it like a scary.
Yeah. And I think that's
send the Grinch round on Christmas Eve as well. How much does that cost?
I think that's the misconception. I think people think because we're lawyers, it's going to cost an arm and a leg, and I get that. We're really not out there to. I'm not going to make your business less economical. That's not what we're out there to do. So from the outset, part of that profiling. If I can say to you, look, I can't find any assets. This guy's dodgy. I don't even think he's got, his letterheads right or whatever it might be. There might be just something about it that we found out that, you're not going to get your money. Then we'll just say, I'm sorry, it's not economical to chase after this. So there's, so we're not out to and I wouldn't charge you for that, by the way. So we're not out there to say, well, just give us all your money and we'll just run off with it and send one letter. Because that would defeat the object, because you need to get those invoices paid.
Sure, thank you.
So
Anyone else?
Just a quick one. I have heard from one company in their terms they put if you don't pay in 30 days, they'll add a 4% late payment charge.
Mm-hmm.
Is that quite a common thing?
It is.
Would that be a good
It
thing
is,
to do?
yeah.
Because I haven't started my business yet, but
Yeah.
hopefully before the end of the year.
Yeah, no, you can. Lots of people add that on, and that doesn't still prevent us from charging the 8.75 as well. So you can charge that. And actually, going back to this one here, this late payment permission, that's 2013. That was updated, and that brought in a point of you can actually claim reasonable costs as well, rather than the fixed costs if we want to litigate on it. So that's an added element for creditors to have. So it's about the courts recognise that you need to keep recovering all of the time. So that was brought in then. So there was that element you can also recover. So even if that interest isn't in your terms, it doesn't stop you from charging that. But if you've got interest in there, great.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
hopefully that will stop people ending up in that bubble where they don't want to pay more.
Yeah,
But
although if the other thing is, which some of our clients quite like to do, we'll charge the actual the additional interest and compensation, but it's used as a negotiation tool. So we'll say to a debtor, look, if you pay today, we'll write that off. We'll write those additional elements off. Depends if you can afford to pay for the letter. Do you know what I mean? It's that balance.
Yeah.
But if it means you're getting paid, you might be owed £4,000 or 45 quid for a letter, and we're getting that £4,000 that same day. It's a no-brainer really for you. But yeah, we can use that as a negotiation tool as well. But by all means, stick our interest in your terms. Yeah.
Or can you do the opposite? That's to sweeten it for the customer to pay you early and promptly. Can you begin to discount it on the price, a prompt payment discount? So if you come up with the money and pay us punctually, then the price will then be less money.
Yeah, lots of people do. It's your payment terms are yours, and you have to create them around what's best for your business. So I can sit and draft payment terms and conditions for you, but they'll be quite basic in the sense that it's a one shop suits all sort of thing. But you'll know what's best for your business. Is payment on delivery suitable for you? Well, no, it might not be, because the service you provide it might not come into that. So it's got to be tailored. You've got to sit and have a think about what works best for your business. And whilst I can sit and have that conversation with you and say, well, okay, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? I can't dictate to you what the best is for you, because it's got to suit what your profitability is. For your profitability and for your growth as well, which I think people tend to forget. If you want to get from here to there, you've got to have that money coming in. See, I told you I can talk forever, and I tried to stick to that.
All right, big round of applause for Alison. Thank you. Well, just some practical stuff as well that I would advise, like invoice early as soon as you've agreed to do the work. Get the invoice out immediately, and then use cloud accountancy software, which is going to lead us on nice to free agent. So yeah, you can all manage it online through your accountancy software. You can send it out through email. You can send the invoices out through email, but you can also keep track of when that invoice is due, so you know when the money.
We also
chases
do
up.
automated late payment emails, so we chase for you. So that kind of
There you
takes
go,
one of the
yeah,
initial
exactly.
steps out of having to do the chasing yourself.
Great. Okay, right, so our last speaker for the day, it's Faye. So Faye is going to talk to you about social media for business. Okay. A big round of applause to Faye.
Hi everyone, so Paul said I am Faye and I'm from Frasian, and we are accounting software for small business owners like yourself. And I'm here today to talk about social media and how you can make it work for you as a business owner. So Oh, one thing I was going to mention, I have notes, so I make sure that I don't forget to tell you all the things I got to play today. But also, this is mainly focused on organic social media, so not paid. So I do mention paid briefly, but this is primarily for kind of organic strategies. So things I'm going to cover, why social media should matter to you as a founder and business owner, a quick overview of social media platforms, or the 4 main ones, and then the opportunities for you and your business. And when I go through the opportunities, I'll then talk about some tactics for each of those, so hopefully you can take away kind of actionable insights and things that you can apply yourself to your business. So, why should social media matter to you? So I've got a few statistics. There are currently 45 million active social media users in the UK alone, which is about 67% of the UK population. So the likelihood is that your target market is on there, and at least one of the channels. People spend a staggering 2.5 hours on average a day on social media, which equates to 5 years and 4 months of a lifetime. So that shows like the breadth of influence and how invested people are in social media. A survey showed that 81% of small and medium businesses use social media in some capacity, so it definitely does work for those businesses. And 74% of consumers rely on social platforms to help with their purchasing decisions. So again, that really shows the impact. And so with these in mind, it's likely that both your existing customers and potential customers are on social media, and it's a great way for you to reach them. So first, kind of a very quick dive into the 4 main social media platforms. I would love to talk about it in more depth, but that would kind of be its own class in itself. So I'll just quickly go over them and then look at some ways that you can think about which is the best one for you. So the first is Facebook. So this is the largest social community, and it's a really great place for you to build a positive presence, but also like a reputation for your business. Twitter, this is a very fast-moving platform, but it's great to engage and share, and also to engage with other people in your industry, so be part of a larger community, and tap into trends, join conversations, etc. LinkedIn, this is a professional network. This is a great place to grow your business network and build authority, credibility, both for yourself and for your business. And then we have Instagram. So that's obviously a very visual-driven platform, and that's a great place to showcase your product, your service, but also to show your brand personality, which is really important on social media. And so which one is right for you? So as I said, I kind of broke this down into 4 key questions you could ask yourself. It should be quite helpful in helping you decide which one is right for you. So it's worth thinking, what is your primary goal for social media? So for example, is it to engage with your customers or potential customers? In which case, Twitter is a great place to be. Maybe your professional network is the most important aspect for you, in which case LinkedIn might be a great place to start. And then think about, where is your target audience? Look at their demographics, so their platforms that they like to use a lot. Also think, where would they want to hear from you? And that kind of, again, varies on your product or your service. Then think about what types of content you want to share. If you're very visually driven and you want to share a lot of photos, videos, then Instagram is probably a great fit for you. And then lastly, I always recommend thinking about platforms that you're particularly comfortable in using. So for example, do you use Facebook or Instagram a lot? Do you follow businesses on them? That kind of level of comfort really helps you excel as you're marketing your business. So, what can you use social media to do for your business? So there really is an abundance of opportunities for what social media can do for you. So what I decided to do is pick just 7 key ones that I think are particularly valuable to business owners, particularly smaller businesses, and then for each kind of give some examples of tactics that could be particularly helpful, and again, that hopefully you can take away with you today. So I will start off with building awareness. So social media is particularly great for this because you can reach new audiences and introduce them to your business and what you do. And there are some kind of key tactics that I recommend. The first one is to make sure you keep your social media profiles up to date. Because in today's age, some people will find you on social media before they find your website. So you want to make sure you have information on there that is particularly valuable to someone that is a new customer. And also, it's a great place to reflect your brand personality. So for example, Free Agent, we're accounting software which can be considered quite dry, but that being said, we've built this amazing presence on social media with people genuinely enjoy engaging with us, and it's a really fun brand, so you can really do it for all kinds of products and services. You can also use social media to grow your business, which I'm sure a lot of you would love to do. So it's a great way to attract new customers and drive website traffic to your website. So one great tactic for this is sharing useful content that you create. So for example, if you have blog posts, make sure that you are sharing those out on social media. Also another useful tip for that is if you do have content on your website, it's worth using a tool like something like Add This, which allows you to add sharing buttons. So then when people are digesting your content, they can also then syndicate it for you onto their social channels. It's also worth thinking of social media as a potential marketplace. So as I said before, 74% of consumers say they rely on social media to help with those purchasing decisions. So make sure that you're present and you're active in that marketplace, because it'll be your competitors most likely will be. And then lastly, for growing your business, this is where I briefly touched on paid, but consider boosting the reach of your organic posts with paid. So this definitely isn't essential. Of the 90 million small businesses that use Facebook, for example, only 25% of them do use paid, but what it can be great for if you've got a small budget is to boost the reach of your posts. So you share your organic content, put some pounds behind it, and it reaches a wider audience that you can use target marketing for. So, another great opportunity for social media is to build customer loyalty. So it's a really great direct channel to speak to your audiences. And so if you're sharing kind of really interesting and relevant content to them, you're keeping your business front of mind, reminding them that you're present, reminding them that you're there. So one great tactic for that is building a sense of community. So make sure you're sharing content that, as I said, is going to be relevant to them and shows that you really know them and understand them. And then also, once you start to build up a following, it's a really great way to keep customers informed. For example, we use it whenever we have updates to our product. But things like that is a really fast, free, and effective way of doing that. You can also use this tactic to build customer loyalty for rewarding customers. So maybe you have exclusive offers. Seasonality is great for this. Do giveaways around certain trends, things like that. We do a lot of that at Free Agent. For example, we just had our birthday and we did a kind of quiz about us and then rewarded our kind of most engaged. So that was a great start for us. Another way is to make sure you're being responsive and really building conversations. So people expect you to be active if you are present on social media. So it's important that you make sure that you are engaging and being active, but also think about being reactive. So being active. So sometimes, a lot of companies just focus on responding to people, but if there are ways for you to reach out and speak to your customers, make the most of those as well. It's a great direct channel for that. So customer support is a huge opportunity. In fact, a study showed that 90% of social media users in this particular study said that they would use it to speak to businesses if they had questions or they needed help. So it's a great way to provide real-time help for your customers and then also create a good first impression for new ones. So the first thing I recommend doing is making sure you have your notifications on because immediacy is really important. A study showed the majority of people think that 24 hours is about how long they'd expect to have to wait from hear from someone on social media. So make sure that you are getting those notifications as they come in. It's also worth always responding to the good and the bad. So I know sometimes that feels kind of, social media is very public, so it can be hard to do that, but it's really important that you do. And then the positive of that is when you do reply to, say, someone's frustrations, what you can do is show people who are then seeing those conversations that you are proactive and that you are kind of providing those challenges and helping your customers. As you scale your business, you might be thinking, oh, well, do I have the time to make all these responses? Consider Facebook Instant Messenger replies. So what these are is when someone reaches out to you on Facebook, it's an immediate message that will come up for them to reply to whatever question they ask. So one thing is to make sure you're thinking about the fact that anyone that is reaching out to you, whether it's for a good reason or frustration, they're going to get the same reply. So the kinds of information you might want to have are how long they might need to wait to hear back from you, or your office hours, or if you're easier to contact by email, then put that in your reply so they know that that's a quicker way to get in touch with you. as I'm sure a lot of you know, social media is great for driving engagement, and that really is about sharing kind of really relevant and valuable content. And some really important tactics to think about for this are sharing the right content is really important. So test different types of content, do standalone posts, photos, videos, all the different types, and then what you can see is what works and what doesn't, and then kind of adjust your strategy accordingly to what works for your audience. I also always recommend don't just share your own content. So the 5-3-2 rule is quite an old social media rule, but it still rings very true, which is you should share about 50% of content which is curated from other sources. So maybe these are valuable articles or videos that you think that your audience would be interested in. 30% be your own content, whether that's marketing messaging, content you've created, and then 20% is about humanizing your brand. So this might be, on Instagram, showing behind the scenes of the work that you do, things like that that really mean people that get to know you as a company and as a business. Then another opportunity to tap into Twitter trends. So that's a great way to stay current, but something that I will mention on that is they are very fast moving. So if there is something trending on Twitter that you want to talk about, it's best to do it as immediately as possible, because the next trends will come in sometimes same day, same hour. And then lastly, consider using social media management tools. So I personally use Hootsuite or Sprout Social. They're both great platforms. What they allow you to do is obviously engage with your audiences and respond to comments, but they also help with scheduling, which is really important when you're as busy as you guys, and reporting, which comes in really handy as you're getting to know your audience. I'll touch on that in a bit. So social media is also great for amplifying your reputation, and so we all know word of mouth is very powerful, and so encouraging your customers to talk about you on social media is a really great way of reaching new customers and also building a really positive reputation for yourself. So one way to do this, for example, is to encourage customers to leave reviews for you on Facebook. A study showed that 70% of consumers are more likely to use a local business that had reviews. So focusing on building that reputation with your customers is really impactful. Social media is also great to turn customers into advocates. So make sure people know that you're on social media, mention it to them, connect with them, follow them, and then when they are talking about you, we find this with Frasian, whenever customers are talking about us and we're engaging with them, they really enjoy that and they kind of engage with us more, builds that sense of community I talked about earlier, and then they're advocating for you for free, which is great. And then that kind of ties into the next one, which is tapping into user-generated content. So that is resharing any content where people say in a tweet or saying something really nice about your service or your product or business. And by resharing that, it's a great way of showing the honesty of what people say about you. But it's also a great way to get free content that you don't have to create, so it saves you a little bit of time. So the last kind of key opportunity that I was going to mention is getting to know your customers. So sometimes people don't think about this as much, but social media is a really great and free way of doing customer and market research. So a first tactic for that is to look into insights and get to know your followers. So all of the social platforms that I've mentioned for businesses, if you have a business profile, have kind of basic insights that you can look at. You can look at the demographics. What's particularly interesting is to see if they align with what your expectations are for your target audience. Maybe there's things you can learn about them that you can then apply to your strategy. Another is to get to know your most engaging customers. So on Facebook, they have a top fans feature where they're identified for you. But on other platforms, consider just making a list of Twitter handles, for example, you see a lot of comments from or mentions. And then get to know them and engage with them. They're really valuable, and again, it's a free way of getting to know your customers. If you're trying to carry out research, it's a really easy way to get honest and immediate feedback. So ask questions. You can use polls. You'd be really surprised. Sometimes we expect to get an answer to a poll, and then people completely surprise us. So it's a really great way of finding out and getting kind of those bonus insights. And then lastly, for getting to know your customers, consider using it to get kind of marketing direction. is there content that does really well? Are there particular posts that where you're top performing? Then that can kind of tell you what is resonating with that audience that you've built up and what works. So those are 7 that I kind of sped through, but I touched on. I'm hoping that at least a few of these resonate with you in your business, and that you've got kind of these actionable takeaways for things that can help you. I do have a few kind of other top tips, just 3 that I'd say always remember when you're using social media for your business. The first is to not try to do it all. So there are a lot of platforms out there. I've only spoken about 4, but even then, it's great to just pick 1 or 2 and do them really well. You're obviously very busy when you run a business, so if it is just 1, that's okay. Focus your efforts on that. It really takes time and dedication, but you will see results. Also be consistent. I know that with all the different hats you wear as a business owner, it can be quite easy to deprioritize social media, but it is such a great opportunity. And even if it's only spending half an hour every day, make a habit of it, and you can really see results over time. And then lastly, it's important to be yourself. You represent your business, and you're in control of setting the tone for how on social media your brand is represented. So share things that you find genuinely interesting. Speak to your followers as you would your customers in person, and that also helps with sort of humanizing your brand and your business. And that little rocket. And that's all I had. I kind of sped through that, so I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has, and I'm here for a little bit after. I know that was quite a lot of information. I don't know if maybe a way of getting slides to you. Yeah, because that might be helpful to use as a reference, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has.
What's your view on repurposing the same identical piece of content across multiple platforms?
So,
some people say don't do that, some
yeah.
people say always do that.
So I would say definitely you can share it across multiple platforms, but adapt it for that platform. So it'll be kind of different versions of the same thing. So say it was, even if it's a photograph, think about the channel that you're using. So for example, if it's Facebook, you kind of have more space there to say more. Twitter, consider things like hashtags, be snappier, and make sure you're tagging anyone that's appropriate. LinkedIn is more professional. I'd always say use a more professional tone there. And then for Instagram, you can again kind of add to it, maybe make it a little bit more fun. Again, look at hashtags, but I would say you can share it. I always treat a piece of content doesn't always fit all the channels. Like for example, these are the 4 channels we use. I'll think about, is it appropriate, and then if it is, I'll tailor it for each of the channels if it is.
Which channels do you use the most, and what kind of gets the greatest success?
Yeah, so we use them very differently. So we probably use Facebook and Twitter equally. Frequency-wise, we post on Twitter more because it's so fast-moving. But we find our communities are kind of the most engaging there. But that being said, we're an older business. We've been on social media for a long time, so it's much harder today to build up a community on Facebook, so it takes more time. But because we have kind of a very large following there, we find we're very engaged. Twitter, by far the most kind of conversational, engaging, probably our kind of top performing channel. LinkedIn, because we speak to businesses, but we also work with accountants, so this is because our more professional network will tend to tailor content a little bit more to kind of our accountant audience. So if you do have a split audience, depending on what you do, you can also think about it like that. They might be in different channels. And then Instagram, we actually use Instagram primarily from kind of a culture standpoint, so we share a lot about what it's like to work with us, the things that we do, so that's kind of inside our culture. So we use that less, but they all kind of do well in different capacities, but these 2 are our primary channels. Oh, sorry.
I've been told that in the early stages of startup, you really shouldn't be relying on paid user acquisition. You should really be relying on organic, ideally.
Yes.
And I wonder if you have any tips about how to broaden the reach of organic posts, particularly in the early stage when you have a very small
following.
followers.
Yes, that is definitely true, because you can't. Cause the reason people say that is because you can pay to grow your following, but those people are never going to be as engaged as the people that you genuinely acquire. in terms of tactics, there are types of content that do better. So, like for example, video is considered one of the most engaging forms of content, and Facebook, for example, prioritizes it in terms of reach. So thinking about that, also Instagram, for example, and I think maybe it might be all of them at this point. They also credit you more if you're trying different types of content. So if you make the most of kind of live and stories and things like and sharing videos, things like that also help attribute to higher reach. And then also frequency. If you are consistent and you're sharing a lot, they'll recognize your activity and kind of the genuine engagement that you're building. So even if the numbers are small, the algorithms are recognizing when it's genuine, and that kind of helps you. And it takes time, but it is really worth it to have that genuine audience versus just trying to look for sign.
And where do you learn these secrets about how the algorithms work?
I don't know. It's a secret algorithm. I do a lot of reading, but it's like Google's algorithm. It's kind of impossible to know. Bless you. What exactly the secrets are? It changes a lot. Go to talks and hear what people say. But I don't have the secret answer, I'm afraid.
Do you use the search much or social listening much to see what people are talking about?
We do. So we're not like as much. And I think for some businesses it's really helpful. For us,
time consuming as well, isn't it?
It's filtering through a lot of stuff that's not relevant to find things that are relevant. But that being said, we'll follow our name and see, if anyone's not tagging us, they might be, for example, on Twitter mentioning us. So we use that because of the competitors. Sometimes that's quite interesting. And then also things like for us, a key term is accounting software. So we do use it sometimes, and if we were to work on a campaign, we would definitely kind of use those keywords around it. But there's a team of 2 of us that do social media, and even then, it would be very hard to use it at scale. But it is really interesting. You can learn a lot from kind of listening.
Yeah, because I did it in the past because I used to do this similar role when I was at Sage and stuff.
Which is very similar to Fridge.
Yeah, exactly. But it used to feel a bit intrusive, if someone's having a conversation over there and then you just suddenly join the conversation and say, hey, could you know we exist?
Yeah.
It just feels a bit.
Well, the only thing that they have the examples, I completely agree. An example that was quite interesting at a talk I went to recently was it was a whiskey company, and they basically used social listening to see when people talked about drinking drams, and a lot of people spoke about when they would go up in Monroe at the top, they would have a dram. So because they used this, the map of the listening tool was insane, but they kind of got all these connections, and so they ended up making an ad that basically they took a barrel to the top of a hill, and every time someone came up, they gave them a dram. Stuff like that is very creative, very time consuming, but does show it is effective. But you are listening on other people's conversations based on keywords, so it depends what your keywords are. It can be really insightful if they're quite niche.
Are you looking at any new one? Are you looking at TikTok and stuff like that? It's
No,
hard, isn't it?
unfortunately, we don't. No, TikTok is not in our target market spectrum. It's quite interesting though because we do obviously have the split 2 audiences, but demographic-wise, it really varies. You can look at where your audience is most active. If they are on TikTok, then it's probably worth being on there. But we kind of stick to the big 4 because of the nature of our business. I don't know if we could handle another one.
It's a lot anyway.
Yeah, and there's Pinterest and such as well. There's plenty of others.
I remember giving a talk to some college kids about using social media to get into the first jobs or whatever, and I went there as some sort of social media semi-expert, I suppose. And I was talking to them about Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, and they were like, what's LinkedIn? Never heard of it. Twitter, they didn't really know what Twitter was.
Yeah, and then Snapchat was obviously, obviously still going, but that had its kind of...
Snapchat and Instagram, that's what they're all using, and there's these college kids going, are you on Instagram? Let's slide into the DMs. I was like, what? I'm not going to slide into the DMs with a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
The way I said it was if they're looking for a job, if they're a young college kid looking for a job on LinkedIn, they're going to stand out if they've got a good profile. So
yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. And I think also that'll be great they'll be well placed to take jobs, for example, in, you know, companies that do target that age group. I think, you know, because we work with small business owners, they range in age a lot, and business type and demographics, so that's why these make the most sense to us. But that being said, if we were a younger company where Snapchat and Instagram was kind of the primary focuses, then we'd probably switch our, you know, our focuses the other way. And I've seen, you know, I've worked with some businesses where, you know, LinkedIn is a lot less relevant, or, you know, Instagram as a focus. It just sort of depends on what your business is.
Video definitely, I think on LinkedIn seems to do really well.
Yeah, I mean it does well on all the. I think it's because LinkedIn kind of came a bit later. So first it did really well on Facebook, and Twitter, and then obviously Instagram, and then LinkedIn kind of got on the same train. So yeah, organically, and everything I said I spoke about is primarily organically. So, you know, when you're looking at paid, it's very different. What content might do well, or how. Those are different insights.
Anyone got any more questions for Play?
Do you do any paid stuff on LinkedIn, or is it all organic across?
So we're primarily organic. We do boost our content and run kind of small-scale Twitter ads, but these are kind of their engagement and awareness focus, so it's primarily our organic content that we boost. LinkedIn, we do run some ads, but that, again, because it's more of our accountant platform, our acquisition team works on that. LinkedIn is very expensive, but, you know, it can be successful. But what's quite nice about the other platforms, and obviously Facebook and Instagram are linked, so you can kind of cross-campaign across the two, is that they make it affordable for small businesses with small budgets, whereas LinkedIn is a little bit harder. You need kind of a higher price point of investment. But our acquisition team do use them for some campaigns. But yeah, I mean, that's treated a bit differently. They're mainly ads, whereas the rest we kind of focus on organic and how we can amplify it. But we're very organic first as a social team.
Have you tried looking at Reddit?
Not at Free Agent, but I have in the past, in previous jobs, looked at Reddit. The one thing about Reddit I would say is it's because it's such a kind of organic and natural platform. I've seen success in that in the past, but it's normally generated by people outside your business. So a customer might talk about you and there'll be a fantastic thread that recommends you. To try and duplicate that is quite hard because it is very organic, and Reddit can be a little bit, you can get slightly frustrated if they feel like they're being marketed to. So it's an amazing platform if you can tap into it, but I think you have to be pretty present and an authentic user of Reddit when you use Reddit, and also not try to duplicate that kind of organic approach. But Reddit does do really well just because there's such a solid, invested community. So yeah, we haven't used Reddit, but I have used it in the past. A lot maybe for kind of more listening and seeing what people say, and then if you do find success on Reddit and drive traffic from Reddit, it tends to have quite an evergreen effect because people are constantly finding kind of key terms and things on Reddit. So depending on what your business is, it is a very interesting place to be.
Right. Big round of applause to Dave. Thank you. And I would encourage everyone to take a look at the social media platforms, because I'm not just saying because here, but you are excellent on social media Free Agent. So the tone and the style of the content that you put out there, I've been an admirer of Free Agent for a long time. So definitely worth checking out to see how they do it. It's not right for every type of company or every type of brand, but I think that you guys get it totally right for who your audience is. There you go. Right, so that's it for the last formal presentation. So actually the last thing I'll just say on here, it comes up. Talked about how to, you've probably all seen this hashtag, this is mine. So this isn't all year round, all day. People are using this hashtag. So there, this is mine. So all day, every day, people are using this hashtag. Okay, so it was created in June 2016 as a way to collectively promote innovative, creative, interesting things that are unique about the Northeast. and from the beginning was said I had to create something that belongs to everyone and no one. So it's like a grassroots, community-driven thing, which works really well because it's not top-down. It's not the council or the local authority or anyone imposing it on the people, if you know what I mean. So it's working particularly well for tech, digital and creative businesses, but two ways of using it. If you just want to see what's going on in the Northeast, it's a really good way to find out about businesses, but also events and initiatives for startups and small businesses. But also if you want to amplify your reach as well, if you remember to include the This Is Mine hashtag at the end, then what I do is I personally go on every day and I like and I retweet every single tweet that has the This Is Mine hashtag from my Plan Digital Twitter account. And for someone who's maybe only got like a few hundred followers, to get that extra amplification through not only me but other people, because other people are on it all day looking, they're scrolling through to see what's going on, and I know that there's some journalists who review this as well, and there's some investors as well. So it's just a really nice, simple, free, quick and easy way to promote what you're doing and find out about stuff going on. So I'm really pleased how well this is going. So that's worth a try anyway to see what's happening. So that's it for the formal thing. So we're just going to pack up now, and then some of us are going to go to the pub. So if anyone wants to join us in the pub, then I'll be there in about 20 minutes, I think. But we'll be sticking around if anyone wants to have a chat. I think Faye has to leave soon because your train's at 3:30, isn't it?
Yes, it's maybe I'm close to our station.
Yeah. So if you want to speak to Faye, grab it now. Otherwise, that's it. Thank you for coming.